Hi everyone, thank you for coming back to my channel. I am Stephanie if you're new here. Today I am outside. I have been enjoying this background. It works out so much better than me being in the house sometimes. Kids are in the house right now, Lauren's in the house, so I'm able to be outside. I'm down by the chicken coop. Nice quiet area besides the chickens and stuff making noise, but today is a little windy, so hopefully I can get through this video and you guys can hear me well for this question and answer. I wrote everything down that you guys shared with me. I also have some stuff from some ladies on Instagram, so I'm just gonna tie all of that in there and going to just state some stuff that I went over in the last video that I shared, you know, some of the stuff with you, like the topics and stuff that I was gonna share with you guys. For all of that in today's video. But then for the podcast videos, I will just pick a topic out of today and go over it in a more in-depth way. So that's kind of what I'm gonna focus on. So I'm gonna start out from the top and just work my way down. I'm gonna try to get through this as fast as I can, only because I don't want it dragged out into this video. I want to be able to go. I want to be able to go in depth with it. Do my podcast, I'll try to make sure that there's like no interruptions and stuff like that, but funny that they just come over here and want to bother me. If I didn't share in my last video that this year will be my 17th year homeschooling. So when we first started out, two of my oldest kids were in school at the time, so we ended up pulling them out at the end of the year, and then we knew that the next year we were going to homeschool them. So with my family and homeschooling, I never was homeschooled. My husband was never homeschooled, but my sisters later in life homeschooled their kids. And then my sister-in-laws, they all homeschool their kids. And then my daughter now homeschools her kids. So that's just a little background on homeschooling. First originally started or wanted to, or I knew that I wanted to. My husband was against it at first. And then later decided that it was something that we wanted to do for our family. When I first started homeschooling, I pulled the two out, and that was 6th grade and 3rd grade, and I only had to buy for them 2 children because my next in line was just born. So I had to get curriculum for the 2 kids, and that was my first time homeschooling. Yes, I had help from other people to help me decide on what would be the best curriculum. So I did have help at first deciding. I didn't have to go into it all by myself. So there might be people on here that might have to do it all by themselves and figure it out. That's why it's nice that we have YouTube now, because there's so many moms out here that offer this information. There's like a whole community out there on homeschooling moms and the basics and stuff like that. So, okay. So that was like the biggest question too, is how did I pick all the curriculum for all my kids? So I started out slow, and I started out with a curriculum that a lot of people I knew were using. So I only went with that. I didn't do any research on that. I just basically paid, like, I think the first year was like $500 for my curriculum. I soon learned later, when each year I was able to do more research on what was going to fit my kids. And I thought at the time that I could almost do the same curriculum for both my kids at the time. So that's what I did, is I just picked one curriculum and made it work at that time. So like I said, Gage was little, and it wasn't until he started kindergarten, so that was like 6 years later, when I started kindergarten, and I had to start out with him with the basics. So when I started, I was already 5 years in with homeschooling, so I had things in line already with the basics of starting. So some of you guys might be like, oh, I have 5 kids, I'm pulling them out of school, and now where do I go with that? I didn't have to do that. I wasn't thrown into homeschooling, so I gradually grew into what I know now. So when Gage started, I already was moved on to, I think it was Rod and Staff curriculum. So I first started out with Becca, which is an amazing curriculum, but through what I was doing, I needed to move on from there. We also worked on Robinson curriculum. It's a CD curriculum. It's very old-fashioned, great curriculum that you just print out a lot of the books and stuff like that. If any of you guys are interested in that curriculum, I have the curriculum. If you guys are interested in purchasing it, I no longer need it. So just leave me a comment and we can connect some way if you guys are interested. I think it's going for like $60 on eBay or something like that, but we'll just message each other and go from there. But otherwise, email me at 10kidsinthegarage@gmail.com and we can question out first come, first serve kind of thing with that curriculum because I don't need it anymore. And it just comes in a compact CD holder so I can mail it out to you guys. It would be easy for me to do that. Okay, so off of that, so we did the Robinson, we did the Becca, and then we did Rod and Staff. And we used Rod and Staff for all my kids for many years, elementary grade. And then it just got to the point when it came to Miles, Declan, and the twins. So Miles, Declan, we used Rod and Staff for quite some time. And Declan now will be in 4th grade, so we're going to be using BJU, and I will go over that later with you guys. Okay, so let's go back. I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place. Let's go back. Let me just go over this really quick with you guys. So my older two, Blaine and Victoria, they both graduated from me or with me homeschooling them. And then the next is Gage. She'll be graduating this next year. Eli is in 10th grade. Hudson is going to be in 8th grade. Miles is going to be in 6th grade. Declan is going to be in 4th grade. The twins are going to be in 2nd grade. And Evelyn is still 4 years old, so we're not ready for that yet. For the first question is, how do you homeschool with toddlers and little ones and pregnancies and hormones and all that kind of stuff? So I've gone through all of it, and I also went through having twins and multiples on top of homeschooling, so that was fun and interesting. We also went through open heart surgery with one of my kids, being pregnant with the twins. Started out homeschooling right away with a baby. I didn't have it where I was already homeschooling for, a period of time and then had a baby and tried to figure it out. I had to start automatically with a baby with homeschooling. So having a baby and homeschooling all at the same time, I was put into it all at the same time. I didn't have to adjust my life to make it work. So I just automatically just did it. And I didn't have any tips on how to do that. And I had to just kind of do it on my own. But the more kids I had and the more toddlers I had, the more babies I had. When I had little ones and the more years I was homeschooling, I had to figure out how to adjust to new little ones. And depending on when I had them, if I had them in the summer, I was already adjusted to the new baby and the new, lifestyle or whatever. So when school started, I was comfortable with starting because I didn't just have a baby. I had them, I had them in the summer. And I didn't have to homeschool little kids yet. So by the time my older kids and my young kids are 9 years apart. So by the time I had the 8 that are in the house right now, I already was homeschooling for so many years already that when I added a new baby into the mix of everything, I already knew how to handle doing it. So if you're just starting out with homeschooling, like the lady on here, she's just starting out, she has, a toddler and a baby. Okay, so when you're in a situation like that, then there's a lot of grace on you knowing that kindergarten is a lower grade that you can take lightly at first and adjust to your new lifestyle is what I can give for the best advice. So when I'm struggling with a baby or I'm struggling with a child, or discipline issues, I focus more on the discipline and the child versus the education at that time. So hopefully that helps and gives you a little idea that there's going to be days that, the baby's just crabby. You're not going to be able to get the homeschooling in, and that's totally okay, because you need to focus on the environment first, because your child will never learn in an environment where it's crazy or mom is not relaxed and not able to handle the day. So I set aside the schooling and get my day in order first. And if homeschooling never happens, especially in kindergarten that day, it's not really that important. I hope this doesn't come off negative. But I have older kids in the house right now that if a situation were to come up, they would be able to help my little ones with homeschooling. Now, in your situation, you're going to have 3 little ones. If the day goes bad, the week goes bad, that week is more important than the education at that time. I hope this makes sense. So you can always fill that in, and that's why a lot of homeschoolers will go through the summer, because they're able to take that time and fill in that. And with homeschooling too, it's not just a time, it's a lifestyle. So don't look at the time, don't look at the calendar part of it. Look at what you can get in on the days that you can. And if you can make it through a full week of school, that's awesome. But the time that it takes to homeschool a kindergarten would only be a tiny part of your day. The rest of the day is your normal lifestyle, and you tie in your homeschool with the rest of the day. I hope that makes sense. I hope I answered that question. So when my kids were older and I had multiple toddlers in the house and a baby, like I said, it depended on the day. If we couldn't get it done, then we just didn't get it done. Or what I ended up doing later is I always had like a box. So I would take a box and fill it with goodies before the year started. So you can fill it with fruit snacks, healthy snacks, whatever you want to put in there. And then I did like a cubby for that child, and I would only bring it out during school times. Evelyn has her own cubby. She won't be homeschooling for a little bit yet. So she has stuff in there. So every year when I start school, I make her cubby extra special, so that when she does start school, she already has it in, knowing that we already homeschool, that it's comfortable. It's a comfortable transition for them to start. So I put a lot of my kids' books that they didn't finish in her cubby also, and then she feels like she's working on that. But if you have toddlers, only bring out them toys during the homeschool time, because then they're going to be more interested in what's in that cubby versus you not giving them the attention because you're focusing on another child. I have to spend a lot of money on a cubby system for that next child or for that toddler, but it just makes it extra special that they're not feeling like they're being left out because you're having all the attention on the other one. I also have my toddlers do school with my big kids. Now, it's not something I sit down with them and work on with them. I just pull out a book, and it might have word searches in it. Whether they understand how to do it or not, they can just circle, words or letters, and they feel that they're doing the same thing. So they're not feeling like they're left out. I do a lot of rice bins. I do bean bins, activity stuff that I pull out just during school time. So I set it up in that way, or you can set it up that you have a 1-year-old, they're loud, they're crying, crabby, whatever. Give them their snack in their high chair during the time that you're going to be teaching the other child. So they're focusing on their snack time, and then you can focus your time on your toddler or the next one that needs to homeschool. I'll do maybe a podcast on that one. Another question was, what if my kids didn't want to homeschool? So for my kids, like I said, I always start them out little, so they don't know any different when we do start homeschooling. So they automatically want to homeschool. I don't have kids that don't want to homeschool. Now, Gage is going to be graduating next year. He's kind of at that point where he's a teenager, and he's kind of like, do I have to do this kind of stuff? But I think it's more of a discipline thing than an actual homeschool thing. So hopefully I don't offend anybody on that. So what I would suggest is starting out with the discipline part of homeschooling. So if my kid's not going to do his school that day, then I start pulling things they can't have. Like if they have screen time or whatever, I would just pull that then. And even if they choose not to do their school that day, that's fine. That's their choice if they don't want to do it. But then the next day, they still don't get screen time. So eventually your kids catch on that if they don't do what is told, they don't get a certain something. Or you can do the opposite too, like, hey, we got through the day. Let's have an extra little treat today because we got through the day. That's awesome. So you could do the opposite, more of a praise thing than try to make it negative. Okay, so finish books before school ends or carry it over. So when my kids are little, like Tyler age, I carry it over to the next year. I don't really rush the year. I don't really care. Now that my kids are in older grades, this summer we're working on the books that need to get finished, and then we just are done. But otherwise, yes, I carry it over to the next year. And she also asked if I buy new books. Yes, I still buy new books for the next year, just because I buy all our books at tax season. That's when we have the extra money to do that. And then I already have their books for the next year, whether they finish or not. I tie it in halfway through. So if they get done and it's like, you're in the first quarter of homeschooling, well, then I tie in the next book right away. So hopefully that helps. Why am I using BJU this year? So I already tried multiple different curriculums. I already know which one works for me. I know what my kids can do, what my kid would learn better with. When we were using Rod and Staff, I don't feel that my next kids in line would be able to pick it up real quick because it's very dry. I love it though. I don't want a negative comment on that, I guess. Because the curriculum is awesome for anybody that starts it out from kindergarten. It's amazing. But this year with my kids going to be 7 years old, the twins, they are a little different. And with BJU, it seems like it's bright and cheerful, and they need that. They need all the pictures on the side, where I wouldn't want the pictures. I would want Rod and Staff. So I fit it BJU to what my kids' personality is, and then also, what's in it. We also look for Christian-based curriculum, so I'm always going to pick it if it's going to be Christian. The only thing that isn't Christian sometimes is my spelling, so I get it on Amazon, but I kind of look through the book if it offers that. I look at comments to make sure that there's not some bad stuff in their spelling books or cursive. Some people would be like, Steph, really, there's not going to be something in a kid's educational book or whatever, but there is in some stuff that we just want our kids to have more of a Christian-based curriculum. How do I find curriculum for more of my kids? Like I said, I've been doing it now for so many years. I already know what curriculum is going to work for all my kids. Some of my kids are still using different curriculum in high school just because it's a different thing. So Gage and Eli, I'm going to do the same thing that my little kids are going to be doing. So that has to be different. And that is only from experience that I know what I can have or use for my kids. So it might take time and research for you to get the right curriculum. What if I'm doing different age groups? So with the ones that I have in the house, so I have 7 kids that I'm doing. Nash and Lachlan are the only ones that are mainly doing the same curriculum. Gage and Eli can do some of the same curriculum because they're in high school and they both need to accomplish that one subject, so I can do that. Otherwise, I just go by what I already did with the kids in the last years of homeschooling to know what my kids need. Now, how do I do it? So all my kids are at the kitchen table, or they can go in separate rooms if they have questions. They need to come to me, and then I help them with their with their subjects or whatever. So I do all their schooling at one time. I don't ever do it separate. And I'm doing one-on-one with the kids that need one-on-one. And then when the other kids are done with their subjects, they come to me so I know that they're finished. All my kids are in the grade levels that they need to be in. The question was, how do I know what grade level that they need to be? So depending on if you pull them out, it's more by testing. Some of the curriculum have testing that you can test your kids and then go from there on what they're learning. So if I go on Google and I say, what do I need to teach my child in 2nd grade? That's what I would go off of, if that helps. So that's kind of one of the things. Another thing was activities. So I will do a whole podcast maybe on activities and stuff. So that's one thing. I always tie in different activities with the kids, whether it's homeschool groups and we go out to parks and stuff like that with other homeschoolers, or go on Pinterest. They have so many different ideas for homeschoolers and activities. One of the other things were registering for homeschool. You need to go on your state laws. So you just Google it, look up, like, we're from Wisconsin, so I look up Wisconsin state laws for homeschooling, and then I would give you all of that. I'm going to leave all of this information down in the description on how to register your kids for homeschooling, but I am going to be doing a podcast in depth on how to register. I'll try to go on there and see if I can show you some stuff on how to do that. But I already know my state laws on what I need to teach my kids to get through the year. So that's another thing that I will talk to you guys about. So anything in today's video you can comment on and I will answer, and then I'll go more into it on the podcast. So I think that is pretty much everything that I wanted to go over with you guys in this. So I know I didn't really go in complete order, I guess, with it. But these are the topics that I'm going to share with you guys. If you have any new ones that you want me to go over, just leave them in the comments down below and then I will do that. So I'm going to end the video here. I will go through more of this in the podcast. Also, if you guys follow me on Instagram, I share stories and stuff over there, my homeschool stuff over there, and maybe book ideas and stuff like that over there. So otherwise, hopefully you guys liked today's video. Don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.